Knows Best.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Thursday. I think I'm going to drop this tonight because I have the best news ever. Carter left town. Carter left town. I'm free. I was thinking about talking about this actually on TikTok first. And whenever I think about making a TikTok and I'm like, I'm not sure how it's going to be perceived, I then put it over in my notes app to talk about on the podcast, which this isn't that crazy, but I don't want this misinterpreted as I hate my fiance, because that could not be farther from the truth. But when I tell you how excited and happy I am when he leaves town for like a couple days. Obviously, if it's more than a couple days, like I don't deeply want him to be gone, but like there's something about him leaving town and I can just do whatever I want. And this is what I was thinking about, how even when Carter's here, I can do whatever I want. Carter will do anything that I literally say. If I want to go on a walk, we're going on a walk. If I want to eat here, we're eating here. That's not the issue, but there is something about like being by yourself and doing what you want when you want to the second. You know what I mean? If I want to lay in this bed all day, I'm going to lay in this bed all day. Whereas if Carter was here, I would think twice about that. Even though he wouldn't judge me and he would have no problem with that, it just is different. Like I really just feel like I can be my not best self, my worst self when I'm by myself. And it's hilarious because Carter's mom, and I'm waiting, she will call me today. Every single time Carter's out of town, she calls me and she's like, hey, how are you doing? Are you thriving? And if somebody just said that, and you know the people that just like hate their partners and like would just be happy that they're out of town because they hate them, it obviously has nothing to do with that. It's just like so nice every once in a while to just be on your own. Me and May, girl, if you're watching or if you're not watching, my sweet May is right here next to me. Oh my gosh, last night, y'all, I have to add these to my story. Garrett texted, who was the previous owner. He texted me and Carter in a group chat, the breeder. And I imagine because May just had her birthday, the breeder likes to keep in touch with Garrett and like ask how May is doing. And obviously I've owned her for a little bit now, but Garrett will just send photos that I've sent him. Well, he texted us and he said, y'all, and he put a screenshot from the breeder. Literally the name says May's breeder. Photos of May from 2017, the year she was born. And I'm guessing what happened is like this man on Facebook or Snapchat has like a memories thing. And this was 8 years ago because y'all, oh my goodness, if you're watching, let me just hold up this photo. I'll post them on my Instagram story. I cannot believe it's little May dog. As a puppy, shut the fuck up. And I never got to know her as a puppy. I didn't meet May until 2019, so I guess she was only 2 probably by the time I met her. But oh my gosh, that literally, I was crying on the couch. We were sitting last night on the couch watching whatever, eating, and I'm like sobbing. I'm like, oh my gosh. Anywho, it's a girls' weekend, but only for 2 freaking days because Carter is in Houston on a real estate retreat of sorts, and that is all. He literally just left. It is, actually his flight's at like 11:30, but I just dropped him and his friend off, the guy that he works with. And then they get back on Saturday at 12, I think, so barely 48 hours, which is also hilarious because I thought about reaching out to my girlfriends, but I'm like, it's only 48 hours. Like, I need this time to myself. I cannot express to you guys like how much I enjoy my alone time and being by myself. Oh, that's what I was saying. It's like Carter's mom is always calling every single time. She's like, how are you doing? Are you thriving? Because her and Carter's dad equally, like individually, go on a lot of trips, like with their friends or by themselves. Like Carter's dad will go hunting and he has hikes and does all of these things. Carter's mom has like a million friends, I'm not kidding, in every city across the globe. So she's like jet setting here and there, and I love that for them, and I can't wait to be them when we're older. Oh my gosh. But anyways, let's rewind to last weekend and let's talk about Carter wanting to buy a Tesla. Y'all, did we not just talk about how we literally had $300 in our bank account? And this is what I'm saying. I don't think Carter, He gets it, but he doesn't. And let me rewind. I obviously uploaded the podcast Friday morning. I wake up Friday, I drop Carter off, I run to Target, and this was the day that I'm going to go see Natalie because she wasn't working. And it was doom and fucking gloom. But that morning, wait. We get home from the gym and it was payday because Carter gets paid like on the 15th and the 1st or whatever, 31st. It's kind of in and around those times. And the paycheck comes in, which we had to pay rent. Obviously, because that was the first. Yes, we paid rent, which is our most hefty payment. Obviously, we pay a lot for the student loans, but like consistently, you know, our rent is a big ticket item. Well, we have left over. Carter paid off his credit card, which had this weekend's flights and some other flights on it. So it was like a $600 bill. Okay, well then he wasn't thinking, and we wanted to even out the loan payment that we've had to an equal number. So we put $700 to the loan. I'm not kidding. And here's the thing. That was Friday. So these things don't come out of our account until like this Monday or Tuesday. This is Friday morning we're talking. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like, okay, so we're going to be left with like a little bit of money. And this is another thing. A lot of our bigger bills, we have like our electricity, which can be anywhere from like $70 to $120. That comes out like the second or the third. Carter has a car loan. No, not a car loan. His, what is that called? Insurance. That's like $100, I believe, as well. I'm waiting for that one to come out. That's like the second or third. So I always know that in that next week, and I have these all in my calendar, that from the 1st to like the 7th, we have about $300 to $400 of bills coming out. And that's something we need to take into account when doing the student loan payment. Like, we didn't need to do that, but we did, and it's fine and it's wonderful. But like, this is where we're at, right? I drop Carter off. I come back home. I wait on Natalie to text me. We had agreed at like 11 for me to be there, and I was going to get us Dutch Bros beforehand. It's like 10:30 and I'm driving to Dutch Bros. There's one on the way. Well, I get a little ding and I open my phone and here's an incoming text from Carter. And Carter never texts me during the day. We do like one midday, like, hey, how are you? Love you. That's it. Okay, it's like 10:30. It's a screenshot and it is a Tesla. And I said, and then it had the financing with it. Right? And I'm like, what the actual fuck is this? Okay, why is he sending this to me? 1 second later, he's calling me. And I'm like, oh my God. Number one, are you working? It's 10:30 on a work day. You're at the office. What are you actually doing? Which I know it's not up to him if he has work or not, but I'm like, get to fucking work. But he calls me and I'm like, okay, hi babe, what is this? And he's like, oh my gosh, babe, Tesla is running a deal. Okay, this woman partner came in and her wife just bought a Tesla like the night before because they were having this deal where it's 0% interest on the financing for 30 months, almost 3 years. And that is one hell of a deal. I will give him that. It is one hell of a deal. You are just paying for the car outright. But I'm like, babe, number one, I can't even buy an $8 shirt at Target without rethinking it 100 million times. You think that I'm just going to go buy a $40,000 car with no heads up, with no information? And here is the thing. We talk about Teslas a lot because Nanny Fam, when I drove the kids after the Tahoe started having problems, I would say for like the past year, I would take Nanny Mom's Tesla because she worked at home. I would take them to school in the Tesla. I would bop around during the day in their Tesla. I love it. I do have a gripe, and this is just now something that honestly I'm fucking bougie about because I had the Tahoe. being high up. I really want like either an SUV or a midsize. I think a midsize would be perfect, like a RAV4 or a 4Runner, or what's a good, like a Blazer, or the midsize, not a huge fucking SUV, but not a car. Honestly, being down low, like after you get a car that's high up, you just feel so safe and secure, and like you can see everything. I hate driving Carter's little fucking Civic. Okay. And that is just something when I want a car. This is my only gripe with Tesla, because even their biggest vehicle that they constitute, or like they say is a mid-size, or like they call it like an SUV, which it has more seating, it's still low to the ground. I don't like that. And there are so many things with electric vehicles. Number one, I just watched a podcast the other day with Graham Stephan and this car guy, and they were talking about how obviously depreciation on a car is insane. Any car, but on EVs in specific, not just Teslas, like Rivian, for example, a Rivian pickup. If you don't know what Rivian is, it's an electric car brand. They have that like pickup. The lights on it are so fucking ugly. I hate the lights on these. And they have like an SUV. I'm not sure if they have a car, but actually on Knox here in Dallas, they opened up a store. I obviously haven't gone in. I would never buy that strictly for the lights alone. But this car guy on the podcast was talking about how the pickups, like last year, they were selling for like $140,000 a used Rivian pickup. Or like now, if you were to buy a car with not that many miles on it, one of those pickups, it's like $40,000. The depreciation is insane. Insane. And actually, Carter's best friend has a Tesla, just a regular car. And we had called him, I'm getting ahead of myself, which is fine. And he was like, do not buy a brand new Tesla. Like, it's the worst. It's never an investment. Obviously, a car is not an investment. It's just the worst purchase ever, because you can go on and look at Teslas that have like not that many miles on it, and they're like $20,000, like half the price. And it's like, I think, and this is what Nanny Mom does, she leases them. She leased one for 3 years, and actually her lease came up right as I was leaving them, and then she got another one, a gray one, I think the same exact style, which I also don't really believe in leasing a car, and this might change. Again, I need to do research on these things, but being from North Dakota and being Barrett Berg's daughter, leasing a car is like criminal. The fact that you aren't buying it, which obviously it's not a bad thing. I think a majority of people lease a car, but it is something like in my bones. Like, what are we talking? It's kind of like clothing rentals, rent a runway in Newly. Why can we not just buy something? Like renting, and obviously I rent an apartment. That's a little different just because we're not in a position to buy. Like, we have to rent. But renting clothes or a car, like that's what it is. Leasing a car, you're just throwing hundreds of dollars and you don't own it, which again is like the depreciation. And if you're going to want a new car, I know there are pros and cons to it, because there's like warranty, and if something goes wrong, they fix it. There are a lot of pros, but like that old school person in me is like, what? Leasing a car? I think I just have the Barrett Berg mentality. This man doesn't even buy a new car. The newest car my dad has ever bought is probably, and we're talking like a 2002 Tahoe. I think my vehicle might be the newest vehicle. Oh, he bought a 2005 Tahoe after I took this one, right? Do you guys know that Barrett bought my 2002 Tahoe for $1,000? 1000. He bought this Tahoe that I drove to Dallas and drove around Dallas for 5 years for $1,000. He fixed it up, and it like is amazing. You guys, we drove that when we first bought it in like 2013 or 2014. We drove it to Buffalo, New York. We drove it to Indianapolis. That was like the car. We didn't drive on the day-to-day, but we took on long trips. Okay. I then drove it to Dallas, and I drove the kids around. Like, that's the vehicle I've had this whole entire time. He bought that originally for $1,000. Obviously, he put money into buying parts to fix it because it like didn't work. But that's who my dad is. To give you an idea, that is who Barrett is, which that will never be me because I don't know how to fix a car. But I do have a really hard time wrapping my head around, number one, leasing a vehicle. But number two, even buying a brand new car. It's like you can buy like a 2000 or a 2020 vehicle with not that many miles on it for way less expensive. Maybe not way. And with COVID and all of the shit that went down, used cars were up. Like used cars were just as expensive as new cars because they were such a hot commodity, because remember, they couldn't get like the chips or things over. That was a whole shebang. But I need to do just like a lot of research. I've never bought in a car. Carter's never bought in a car. I'm not interested in living a life where we have a car payment at this moment when we have $300 in our bank account. Let me remind you. Anywho, we're on the phone. Okay, let's back it up. We're back to the present moment, not present, but last Friday. And he's like, babe, it's like this. Our payment would only be $400. It's like just a $4,000 down payment, so on and so forth. And again, the 0% interest, totally got it. I'm there, right? I understand that it is a good deal. Do we need a car? No. The Honda is working just fine. It has 128,000 miles on it, which honestly isn't that much. My Tahoe has 300,000. Which again, I know that that's not the norm. I know that I had a dad that could fix things and so on and so forth. But like 128,000, like we're fine. That car is just fine. And why would we add a payment? And here is the thing. It's not that we couldn't have the money, right? A lot of people are still paying student loan debt and rent. Like if we weren't paying an exorbitant amount on these student loans, we could easily add a $400 payment. Like Carter has a great salary and then my money is just extra. That's kind of how we operate. We would be perfectly fine. It's not that we can't afford. Now, if you ask me, I really like the sentiment of if you can't buy something twice, you shouldn't be buying it. I think that's a really good way to live, which again, when you're talking about a car loan, like nobody pays for a car outright. And there is some pros. And this is another thing that somebody pointed out to me, but it also has to do with the student loans. Here is financial Brenna. Okay, coming to put my cap on, I'm going to teach you guys something which some of you might know. Some of you might think this is boring as fuck, but I think it's important. If you invest money into EFTs, your Roth IRA, your 401k, if you invest money, you can, the staple or the standard return, like if you're in the S&P 500, if you're just like in one of the traditional EFTs that's like safe and steady, 7% interest rate is the safe bet. You can count on your investment in a low risk investment gaining 7% money back, or like, how do you say that? Oh, maybe I shouldn't be the one explaining this. 7% is what you will be gaining on the money that you invest, which means, for example, if you have student loans, if your student loans, your interest rate is less than 7%, if you're only gaining 3% interest on your student loan debt, you might as well pay that off at the minimum payment and then invest money, because you can make more money investing than the interest is costing you on the loan. Does that make sense? Whereas if you had like private loans and the interest rate is 10%, 8, it's like anything higher than 7, 8 or 7 is like where you get like on that line, it's one or the other, but 9%, 10%, 11%, 12%. And this goes for a car. If the interest rate is that high, you're better off paying that off first, right? Than investing. So for example, Carter has a few loans that are at 8%, and those are the ones that we're attacking, because even if we were to invest money right now, the interest rate on the loans is going to cost us more than we can make investing, and it makes more sense to attack those. Whereas once we get to the loans that are 3%, 4%, right, we are better off doing the minimum payment and then investing the money. Are you following? And this might, if you're not financial, this might not really be making sense. I'm just trying to help anybody, because if you have a car loan and the interest rate is like 3 or 4%, I don't know what a normal one is. You are better off paying the minimum payment and just investing your money, rather than, which this is a total mental game, paying it off, because a lot of people think when they have debt, when they have loans, it's better to pay it off, right? Like it weighs on you, which that is something. I paid off my student loans like this. I paid off all my student loans in 2020, like $30,000 worth. I worked my ass off in my real estate job and in college, and I just got rid of them, which in hindsight, not the best thing to do, because I don't remember what the interest rates were, but I can't imagine that all of them were over 7 or any of them. I don't know, because I didn't have the financial tools and like knowledge that I do now. Not the best idea, because I could have just paid the minimum or even just half less. And did I say less and invested money at that time? If I would have invested $15,000 at that time, that would have been compounding. Stupid. But I didn't have the knowledge and the weight of those loans. Like it did feel really good to pay them off, but if I would have been more financially savvy, I wouldn't have done that. Okay. And that's why I want to explain to you guys, you have to look at your interest rate on things. And this is why credit cards, you want to pay credit cards off immediately as fast as you can if you have credit card debt, because the interest rates on credit cards are like plus 15%, 20%, like they can be insane, and you are just better off. Like you end up paying way more on interest than the actual things that you use the credit card for, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to make you guys aware with the car payment, like some people really want to pay off this, that, and the other, but if it's like a 2, 3, 4% interest rate, you're better off just like doing the minimum payment and then investing the other money. That is like a way better bang for your buck. But I do understand, because I was you, if you want to pay things off just so it's not like looming over you, I get it, because there is something about like that feel of having debt. It's like, oh, I remember it just weighed on me, and that's why I paid it off immediately. I remember because I kind of paid them off in increments. You know, if you've ever had student loans, you have like subsidized, and there will be different kinds of subsidized, and then there will be unsubsidized. And I would like clear one out, like let's say it was like $3,000, and like the high I got from that, I'm like, holy fuck. And then I would take care of another one, because I had so much of my savings. Again, I didn't even know what investing was at the time, because my parents didn't teach me, school didn't teach me, which is nobody's fault, right? But kind of a shame. Anywho, I was like so addicted to that high that I paid them all off. But anyways, let's get back to it. I'm telling Carter on the phone, I'm very resistant. I'm like, babe, what are we talking about? He's like, we should really think about this. I'm like, okay. I get my Dutch Bros, hang up, obviously. I'm like, I cannot even deal with this right now. We literally had $300 last week in our bank account. We just paid all of our loans. We're going to have like maybe a little over $1,000 after we just did all of these other payments. What are we talking about? Right? And meanwhile, oh, this is the other thing. I'm trying to plan our elopement, but I have no fucking money to do so. Like, we haven't been taking that into account, and I'm not interested in putting it on a credit card. I don't want to go into debt for a trip. Like, there's no need for that. And that's like a weight that I've been carrying individually, because not that Carter put it off on me. I talk about it, but then like when it comes to the finances, it's like, okay, what the fuck am I doing? Right? So I was just feeling a lot of that. I'm like, oh, we're going to add a $400 car payment, and we still are not even wed. We still can't even plan our trip. It's just, again, priorities. And we all have different priorities. I understand, especially for Carter, which again, I think it's so fucking stupid, and I don't care about like looking bougie and cool, but as Carter gets into his career, it's like anything. It's like you want to dress well. You want to like be put together. We have this dirty ass Civic that is like, honestly, we need to get it detailed. There are like stains in the seats. I understand if he were starting to go to like lunch things, again, it shouldn't matter, and it doesn't matter, but I do understand you want to like look and feel your best, and we have like a shitty ass car. It's not shitty. It's fine. It's decent. Okay. Not to shade anybody with the Civic. I have a fucking 2002 Tahoe. It's like a 2014 Civic. It's completely fine. But like all of the people in his office, like Dallas specifically, I think it's like the highest city in leased cars. I think it's like the number one city of like leased cars. They say, what do they call them? The 30 million millionaires, the $1 millionaires. There is a quote that they say, because like everybody in Dallas is so leveraged. Like everybody in Dallas is about showing wealth that they don't have, like leasing cars and racking up credit cards. Like it's known for that. People make fun of people in Dallas for that, especially the guys, like the young guys. Every guy drives like a BMW or a nice vehicle. It's leased, right? They can't actually afford it. Some people can, but like, I understand when that's all you're around, you just get swept up in it. It's kind of like the Highland Park moms or like the moms at Green Hill at the nanny kids' functions. Like when you're around a certain group and everybody does Botox and filler, like it's like peer pressure, but not peer pressure. It's just kind of like the culture of whatever group you're in. I get it and I understand and I'm not against it. Like I do think there is something about, it's kind of like look good, feel good. Like the car you drive, I would love having a nice brand new fucking Tesla. Who wouldn't? Right? But anyway, let me get back to the story. I drive to Natalie's. I get us the biggest iced coffees that they have. They were ginormous. And we sat on the couch for like 3 or 4 hours. We wanted to sit by the pool, but it's been so cloudy. It's cloudy today. It's been like on and off raining, which honestly was fine. We just sat on the couch and yap. And we obviously talk about money. I am like... I'm sitting here explaining all of my guts on this podcast. Obviously, I don't give a fuck. But with my friends, I like to talk about finances because Natalie and Ryan, are planning a wedding. They are the ones that got engaged at the same time as us, but they're actually going to have a wedding and they haven't really started the process. But they live in a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. They pay less than us, but they live way out in, the suburbs. And we just like kind of talk about these things and her job and, all of the things. And I get there and I explained to her that we had $300 in our bank account and why did Carter send me a Tesla screenshot? And she's like, oh my God. And we yap, I leave and she's like, let me know how it goes. Oh, because Carter texted me while I was there. He said, when you pick me up, we're going to the Tesla dealership. And I'm like pissed. I'm like annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I leave Natalie's, I go home, I do my thing, and then I go and pick Carter up at 4 or 5. I don't remember. He gets in the car and I'm like, are we going to the Tesla dealership? And he's like, yes, I would really like to. And I said, okay. We get there and on the way we're talking about it. I'm just explaining everything and he's explaining his side and we're both, understanding, but I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And he's like, we'll just go in, we'll test drive, we'll talk, we'll learn everything, and then we'll go home tonight. And if we want to buy it, we can do it tomorrow. Carter is very big on big purchases, like thinking about it. He is very much a principled person. He's like, you should never like take the sale or the thing, something like that. Do you remember when we went on our road trip? I don't even know if I told this on the podcast. We looked at condos in Breckenridge. We did this like tour at this place. We kind of got wrapped up into it, but then the cost was like so reasonable and we were literally thinking about it. But he's like, no, like something like this, we need at least a day, 24 hours to think about it and look at the numbers and so on and so forth. And going into the Tesla, he was like, we're not going to buy one today. Like, let's just go look, figure it out. I'm still like annoyed because I'm like, what are we actually doing? We go in and there's this guy. And here's the thing about Tesla. They don't get a commission. That's what they say. He still was kind of pushy, but like, apparently they don't make a commission, which is nice because then you're not bargaining with a car salesman. Like a car salesman at Sewell or at a car dealership, they're getting a commission and they make some of that money you pay. Like the money you pay should go towards the fucking car, right? Like it's a game and it's like, why is it that way? It's so grimy. But Tesla, they don't do that. Like you are paying for the car and that's it. This guy, he's talking to us, right? And he's going over all of the things and we just need to put a $250 down payment and the cars have been going because of the sale. Like it was jam packed. Like it was insane. And they really only had a few more cars left to sell or else they had some in Houston or somewhere else. And he's explaining all of this and he can tell that I'm pissed. I'm just like staring at him. Carter's like nodding his head and he was asking questions and I'm just like, we're not buying a car. Like I had it in my head, we're not buying. Like why are we even entertaining this? And Carter was entertaining it to a degree where I'm like, oh my God, is he going to put this deposit down? But we couldn't talk right there because the guy is sitting there and I know he's going to overcome any objection. So I'm just being silent. But the rage he probably saw in my eyeballs, he's probably like, this is the biggest bitch of all time. Like, he probably knew if he got Carter by himself, Carter was like ready to buy, kind of. Like, he said in the car beforehand that we would go home and talk about it, but like his energy there was like he was ready to literally buy this car. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What in the actual fuck is going on? Anyways, everybody can tell that I'm not having it. I go to the bathroom because I have to pee so bad. We've just been sitting at a table going through the color and the rims and the things and I come out and Carter's walking up to me and he's like, we're gonna go test drive. I'm like, were you talking mad shit about me while I was in the bathroom? Like, this guy is giving us a test drive to try and push us over the edge. And I'm like, I've driven a Tesla myself hundreds of times. Like, I took this car with the kids. Like, I'm familiar. And that's the thing. I'm like, you don't have to convince me. I like the car. It's just like, I held up my wedding ring and I was like, we're just trying to plan like a wedding right now. It's just not something. And then of course, like, this guy doesn't give a fuck, but he's like, I'm like, babe, everybody stop. We take a test drive and I'm just like sour. I'm just fucking in a mood. And I kind of hate that I was that way, because when we are actually buying a car, like, it'll be so much fun. I'm so excited to like test drive and look at different cars, but like, that's not what this was. Like, I was not buying a car. And so I was so sour and in such a shitty mood. And we get in the car drive, or just test drive, car drive. Hello. And it's just me and Carter. And we're driving around. He's like, babe, I want this to be fun and whatever. I'm like, we're not buying a fucking car. I'm like, I'm sorry I came into this sour. And he kept telling the man, he's like, I sprung this on her, because everybody could tell that I was being nasty. I wasn't. I just like was not having any of it. I wasn't like overly like, wow, yeah, because we're not doing it. So I'm like, and he drove around and the guy like took my ID. That way I could test drive. I'm like, babe, I've driven these a million times. Like, I don't need a test drive. I like the car. That's not the problem. But like, number one, we need to research. Number two, we don't need a payment right now. Number three, we have a car. Number four, like, I have all of these reasons. I'm just like, no. And it's so funny because I'm sure I've talked about this before. In most relationships, I think the woman is more of a spender. I think that's fair to say, just like fashion and makeup and skincare. Like, I think things for women, we just like buy more, which is amazing. And I love that. But in me and Carter's relationship, like, I'm going to be the one monitoring him. Like, I'm never going to be the spender. I'm never going to be the one that we have to look out for. Carter, on the other hand, is. And anyways, we go on this drive and we get back and I'm like, I don't want to see that man. I want to get in the car and I want to leave. Like, we're not buying. Like, what are we doing? We're just like wasting our damn time. I'm like, I really want to be excited about it. And I will be when we have the funds and like all of the debt is, maybe not all of it is cleared because it's going to take us a while, but like, we're in a better spot. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, that was that. We go home. I'm not sure. Did I make dinner or we had dinner? We wake up Saturday morning. I'm like, babe, can we talk about getting engaged or the elopement? He's like, yeah, what's going on? And I'm like, now that we're talking about this Tesla and we're talking about like crazy fucking shit, can we have a real sit down on like what our finances are and what we plan to do? Because if we're going the end of July, we need to save money so I can put a deposit on the resort wherever we decide. I'm not interested in putting that on a credit card. Like, we just paid off one of your credit cards. I don't want to do that. I'm not going into debt for this when we could just go to a courthouse and do it in a year. Like, I asked him, I'm like, what are our reasons to get married now and to not? Like, do we need to get married right now or can it wait? And actually, God bless Natalie, because she was the one who said this to me when we were having the conversation on Friday. She's like, could you guys wait until next year? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, it's one of these things where we're not planning a big old wedding. Like, most people have to wait a year or two to plan a wedding, number one, because the finances for that are way more insane. But like booking the venue and those sorts of like all of the details that go into a wedding take time. We don't need that, but still, just from a financial perspective, why don't we wait? We're in no rush. The two reasons, and me and Carter talked about this, why we would like to get married sooner than later are, number one, tax purposes, which is just one. Number two, health insurance. I pay like $400 a month on my free market health insurance, which is fine, but Carter has great health insurance, and once we're married, we can then, obviously I'll be on his health insurance, which Natalie also told me that a lot of places, or some places, I guess, I'm still waiting on Carter to email his person at his work, they'll do like a domestic partnership. You can get health insurance through your partners if whatever constitutes as like a domestic partner, I think is like living together for 6 months, having the same address. Like there are just a few things you have to prove, and then you sign this affidavit and you can get health insurance. I told him, why don't you email the person, because there's an HR person that's above, their Blue Cross Blue Shield, ask if we can do that, which again, I don't need it right now, but I am forking up $400 a month on health insurance, which is a lot of money. Hello. But other than that, like there's really no reason, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what do you think about doing it next year? Because we already decided like that second half of the year for Carter's work is just going to be too complex, and you have Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he was like, actually, do you remember like the beginning of January was really slow for me? Like we could do it early January. I'm like, okay, pros and cons. Like we can save up money then. So let's sit down and do a budget and then start taking aside some things. We'll still have to book a resort in a couple of months, but like still just in this moment, like we're really taking care of some things. So he's like, no, totally. Like, let's sit down. We don't have to max out the student loans. We've almost taken care of all of the 8% ones, which the 7%, it's here or there. So we don't need to ASAP. I mean, it obviously would be better to take care of them, but whatever. We'll just take aside, 500 or 1,000, because that's the other thing. If we do it in July, I don't want to be stressing about money. Like, I don't want to be feeling bad that we're putting it all on a credit card. Like, this is our trip for our wedding/elopement. Like, this is something that shouldn't be stressed about. You know what I mean? Like when it doesn't need to be. Like, why don't we just save $1,000 each paycheck or what have you? And then that way we can have excess funds and it won't be like this feeling bad thing. So that's what we decided. The elopement plans have changed. We still don't know where. We still don't know exactly when, but I think we're now pushing it back to like January, which again, what's the difference? I mean, it's just the two of us. We just need to decide. Oh, Carter just texted me. About to take off. Love you. Okay, wait. Let me text him really quickly so he knows that I love him. He called me. So we picked up his friend, and his friend was like late. We told him like 9:30. He came down at 9:40, which he's on the 37th floor of his apartment, and the elevator just like literally kept stopping. Like he should have been down there, but it was not his fault. But Carter gets really anxious when people are late. Like it really makes him not happy. And that energy radiates off of him and then stresses me out. And he could tell that it was like, oh, stop. Like, it's fine. You're not going to be late for your flight. Everything's fine. And his friend came down and he's not like mad, once he saw his friend, he's like, hey, everything's good. But I dropped him off and then I drove home, which is like a 10-minute drive, and he called me. He's like, hey babe, like I love you so much. I'm sorry if I was like a little bit antsy. You know how I get, but thank you so much for taking us, and so on and so forth. I'm like, baby, you don't need to call me. I love you so much. Text me when you land. Safe travels. Red heart send. Amazing. That is our new elopement details. January. It probably will change again and we will see. And he needs to email that person. And I reminded him, but the admin tasks, not his strong suit. Anywho, then Saturday we went to the meat shop and I forgot that I had never taken him there. It's one of the nanny fam's favorite places. Is this little dinky, like almost house looking building on Lover Lane, which is like a really busy street, and the parking sucks. There's like 6 spots, but they have this brisket hoagie. It's homemade cheese or like house-made cheese. Is it provolone? I'm not sure now that I'm saying it out loud. They have like the best cheese. It's brisket and then it's candied jalapenos. Oh, we literally got one. We go outside, we sit. Carter's like, oh my God, it was his first time having it. He goes back in and gets his second one, and the guy brings it out. He's like, only one? And I was like, nope, we've already been through one. This is his second. He was like, oh, of course. And they actually call it the life changer. Like, it has it in quotations next to it. It was amazing. And then that evening we met with that couple we've been hanging out with. We went to Thomas Ave Brewing Company. I know I have a few Dallas listeners. It's in State Thomas, which is like the cutest little area. I love State Thomas. It's like a bunch of townhomes and like super just walkable, and I love it. It was great vibes. The food honestly sucked, but it's kind of like a bar. We went to watch March Madness. Hello, not this again. March Madness, which the boys sat on the side where they could see the TVs, and then me and the girl sat the other way. But it was so great. I love them. And actually Sunday we had planned on doing like a pool and grill at her dad's house or at somebody's apartment. But again, it was like so gloomy and weird, so we didn't do that. Sunday was just a rest day. Let me think. Now this week I started running, which that's so fucking bold of me to say. I literally ran on Monday. I ran Monday, and Tuesday I woke up feeling fine. I only ran 2 miles, which was like, for my first run being back, I was like a little bit nervous on should I have made it shorter. I wasn't that sore when I woke up on Tuesday. Okay. I ended up though on Tuesday walking 20,000 steps, which is about 10 miles for me. I went on my morning walk. I walked and got a coffee and Trader Joe's, and then Carter and I went on a night walk, and like, hello, I was perfectly fine. I didn't feel bad. Yesterday, you guys, I woke up and I could not walk. I think it's a combination of both. I think I finally got sore from the run, but then also doing the 20,000 steps, which I didn't even realize I did until the end of the day. My hip flexor, I've always had issues with my right hip flexor. Like, even when I was a kid, I remember in soccer, it gave me some problems. I couldn't walk. I took May out, and I really wanted to go on a run, because that's the thing with the run vlogs. Like, I want to be consistent for the content, but also just for myself. That way I don't fall off again. But that was 2 days now. And I thought maybe I would get myself to run a mile. No, I was the laziest I've ever been yesterday. I literally couldn't walk, and it was kind of like radiating down. Like, my shin was like a little bit weird. I'm like, oh no. But today I'm feeling better. There's a tiny little bit of tightness. I obviously stretched all day yesterday, but that's what happened this week. I'm reading A Court of Wings and Ruin. Okay, I'm looking at it on my nightstand right here. I'm probably about a third of the way. If you've read it, I just got to the part Feyre is back with the clan from the Spring Court. She obviously like set that all up. Her and Lucien are now back, or Lucien is there for the first time, and she just started trying to use her wings for the first time. That's where I am. I feel like I haven't been reading as much. I think that I've been really tired at the end of the night. Well, yeah, Monday after my run. And that's another reason I really love running, is I feel like at the end of the day, I'm depleted. Whereas like I can walk 15,000 steps and it doesn't really do anything for me, because it's not like a high exertion level that I'm letting off. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like I've been more tired. So Monday I fell asleep like pretty quickly. Last night it was like 8:30, and Carter was like, what? You're putting your thing down? Because I always close the book and I shut off the light and I give him a kiss, and he's like, babe, it's 8:30. And I'm like, I'm tired. I don't know what you want from me, but loving that book. This is the third book. And what else happened this week? Oh, on Sunday, which we just called them really quickly, Carter's mom's dad, so Carter's grandpa, but on his mom's side, turned 90, which, you guys, my grandmother is 91. Carter's grandpa's 90. I think that one's wife is like 89. His other grandparents are like in their late 80s. I'm like, oh, we've got good genes, and we better pass these on to our kids. Like, obviously they all have health issues now. They're in their late 80s, but like the fact that they're in their late 80s, like our grandparents are all going to be 90. I guess what? Gordy just turned, I guess he just turned 80. He'll be 81, but like I feel some grandparents go kind of quickly. But we called him, and then actually right after, Carter called his mom, and I'm like, why are we calling your mom? And he's like, I think she's there, because his grandpa on the phone mentioned that there was a surprise for him, and Carter's mom had driven to Phoenix because his grandparents live in Phoenix, and she was going to surprise them. So she was on her way over there actually, and we caught up with her. And then, you guys, Oh, I wanted to talk about some things on social media that were killing me this week. I've seen a lot of these literally just static photos on TikTok, and they're like, give me your most unhinged life hack, or give me your like most unhinged this or that. And people in the comments are killing me. Like, I saw one that was like, tell me the craziest way that you found out somebody was cheating on you. And the comments, wait, let me see if I can find some. Oh, this is the one that I was dying at. This one says, give me your most unhinged mom hacks. I'm not talking about letting them run around naked and unashamed in the backyard. I need the craziest hacks of the 21st century. The first one that I saw was that a lady said, she said, I told my 3-year-old that Blippi is dead. Because the kid kept asking to watch Blippi, and she finally just told him that Blippi is dead. There's no more Blippi. Oh my gosh. The first one was actually helpful. This one says, I use a kabuki brush to put sunscreen on my son while saying tickle tickle over and over again. It's the only way he'll stay still for a minute for me to make sure that he's covered. Because you know how kids hate when you put sunscreen on them? I remember when I was at my cousin Lauren's house last summer and they just like fuss and cry, but you use a makeup brush. That's actually genius. This person said, whenever it's bedtime and they are still stuck to Netflix or similar, I change the language to Greek or Polish and tell them they don't understand because they are too tired and it's bedtime. The next one, I told my kids if they go to school all week, they can have the weekend off. These are genius. I told my toddler his ears turn red when he lies. So when he's lying, he covers his ears. Oh my gosh, these are so genius. I always tell my daughter to hold my hand so mommy doesn't get run over or so that mommy doesn't get lost. I think it's easier for her to comprehend than telling her that I don't want her to get lost or to get hit. Oh my gosh, yeah, this is the one. Straight up told my 3-year-old that Blippi is dead. These are amazing. All of them have been so good. Me and Carter were dying at that one. Oh, I recently found this. Did I repost this? It's this meme of this, like, that young kid. Go look at my repost on TikTok. And it says, when he's talking down on himself, but I don't know what to say because I couldn't fucking agree more. Oh, so good. Okay, let's get into some of the questions. Actually, you guys, I have some things coming up this weekend on Saturday, and this has been booked for a while. I have like an influencer event Saturday brunch 11 to 1 that's at this bakery, and it's Dillard's by Sanctuary. They're coming out with like a new fashion line. I'm not sure why I was invited, but I love that kind of shit. I love going. Like, it's so entertaining whether I feel like I belong there or not. I have that. And then my manager messaged me and she's like, Brenna, are you busy? She literally texted me yesterday. She's like, are you busy 4-5, which is this Saturday? I'm like, well, I have that event that we discussed, but other than that, no. And Carter gets home at like 12:15. He might have to Uber home because I'm going to be at that brunch anyways. And she's like, well, Celsius reached out, which they've reached out about some things before, like Coachella last year and so on and so forth, but I haven't worked with them. And they are partnering with me to go to Breakaway Dallas, which, what? I'm not even sure what I just said. Dallas this weekend, Friday and Saturday. It's like a music festival rave, like Griffin, and actually Saturday DJ Mandy is there, who she's on TikTok, and you might not recognize the name as I'm saying it, but I feel like she's made some of the remixes that are like common sounds used on TikTok were mutuals, and she's playing. I'm gonna message her and be like, bitch, I'm coming because we're partnering with Celsius. Me and Carter are gonna go. So it's like from 4 to 11. I think we can come and go at any time, but we get VIP and we're in like the space deck, and it's like food and beverage, and honestly I would love a Celsius. We're going to that. I'm dead. Carter and I, remember we were just talking about, Carter's like, I could never go to another concert again and be okay, but this is what I'm talking about, like a VIP. It's like its own section, which is amazing. Therefore we won't be getting stepped on, hopefully, but I'm so excited to see what it's like. It's at Fair Park. And then, you guys, baby, me. I'm not sure why I just referred to myself as baby, but I'm going on my first brand trip, which is super casual. It's with Ulta. I believe Ulta and Sally Hansen, obviously the nail polish company. Sally Hansen is like the OG of nail polish is. And they actually have Ulta Beauty World in San Antonio. So it's not far. It's not a tropical destination. But I'm flying out on a Friday, and then not this Friday, I don't remember the exact date, but we'll have like a dinner on Friday night, and then Saturday we're going to Ulta Beauty World, which is like where all of the brands that are in Ulta, it's like 200 brands. They set up like these crazy activations and like booths. It's almost like a big convention thing for makeup that's in Ulta, and I'm pretty sure you get just like free product, which is insane. And I'm hoping I can do a giveaway at some point. I'm gonna have to pack a bag, I believe. I'm just guessing from what I gathered, but they have all of these like activations and obviously photos, but you get to try products and talk to like all of the reps, which I'm super excited about. That'll be so fun. Then it's like a private shopping situation, and then I think we leave on Sunday, so it's like 48 hours. And San Antonio from Dallas, a flight is an hour, and they obviously cover it. But Jillian messaged me and she's like, oh my gosh, your first brand trip. I'm excited. And we do learn ahead of time who goes. Obviously, I think the requests or like the invitations just got sent out, and I won't know for a little bit, but I'm excited to see if I know anybody or if it's a Texas thing or like what the situation is. But that's really exciting. Anywho, I think that's all of the updates. Sunday, we have no plans. Let me go through some of the questions. I'm getting a little bit behind on these. I've gotten a lot more. I'm going to try and get through the ones that I can. Okay, here goes nothing. Wait, you would think that after maybe filming, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, I'm not sure what number podcasts we're on, that I would never make mistakes. I just recorded for 20 minutes and the camera wasn't on. Wait, it was on. It just wasn't recording. I am so sorry. Okay, first, I forgot to mention this. Y'all, there was this clip that pulled up on my TikTok, and I'm just going to play it. It's Trisha Paytas and Tana Mojo, and if you don't know who they are, they're just content creators, and they must do a call-in section. It was just a clip that I got on TikTok. Please listen to this call-in.
Thank you. Next. Hi, Trish. Hi, Tana. My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. For 3 out of the 6 years, I've been a registered nurse in a hospital setting. Something that I do very frequently is place urinary catheters. A lot of my patients are male, so my boyfriend and I have been having blowout arguments over me placing catheters in males for 3 years now. He is doing everything to try to get me to leave my job, and I really do enjoy being a nurse, so it's very hard for me right now. Just looking for any advice on this, I guess. I feel like if the roles were reversed, I wouldn't really have an issue, but I'm also biased because I do work in the medical field. I obviously don't feel anything when I'm putting in the catheters. Like, I'm very professional, so it's just a hard thing for me to go through right now because I feel like we're on the verge of breaking up over this. So, thank you. Love you guys.
Oh my God.
Women are really out here being nurses, saving lives, taking care of people, helping, and coming home to a man crying in the corner like a little over a catheter. Girl.
Y'all, like, what are we actually talking about? Your boyfriend is mad that you're a nurse and you're placing catheters. Do you think anybody in that room is having fun? Do you think, like, and how weird to like like, what the fuck are we actually talking about? There are too many bitch boys. Like, I told this to Carter and he was like, what are you actually talking about? I'm like, it's a crazy fucking world out there. It's crazy. But anyways, let's get into the stories. Y'all, I started reading one in the 20 minutes that I just filmed that there's no footage of. There was a story, and I'm going to add it, not to this coming Monday, but next Mondays. If you wrote this in about sharing a dog with the ex. Okay, wait. I'll get into it a little bit. I started reading it and I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking juicy. This girl was in a throuple. Okay. And they had a dog, and like, she no longer is a part of that, but now she's dating a guy for like a year and a half who is sharing a dog with his ex. And I didn't read the rest of it, but I imagine that she's asking what the fuck to do in that situation. Oh my God, that's going to be so good. But anyways, this one I love because it's so relatable. It's about dating. Hi, I have a two-parter. Part one, I recently downloaded Hinge, but I've only had it for about a week. This is my first time ever using it. I've only ever had Bumble and Tinder in the past, and that was my late teens, early 20s. I'm now a 27 female and looking to get more comfortable dating and meeting new people. The only problem is I'm so overwhelmed by the sheer influx of men in who've liked me on the app. I'm trying to be more picky about who I match with, but it's kind of difficult when I have so many likes coming in and options to choose from. It's amazing that so many of them are asking me on dates right off the bat too. I just don't have enough hours in the week. I hope this doesn't sound shallow as fuck. LOL, it's just the truth. Is it acceptable to schedule a date out a week or so, or is that perceived as rude or unserious? Sorry, my illiterate brain didn't read that correctly. Is it acceptable to schedule a date out a week or so, or is that perceived as rude or unserious? I don't think that's rude or unserious. I feel like a week is a good amount of time. Like, we're busy people. I don't think that's rude at all. If that's how you want to schedule them out, yeah, schedule them a date. I think it just gets a little tricky and people tend to like back out of dates. I just would say schedule it about a week out and like keep light contact, that way you don't like fall off, but that way it's happening. I feel like naturally some will fall off and maybe you can't then make it, whatever. But no, I don't think that's bad. I think a week is a normal amount of time. Should I be even pickier with my matches? Okay, what a wonderful fucking problem to have that you just have men all up in your likes. I would always err on the side of being picky, yes. But also, here's the reality of like Hinge or any dating app. You match with 10 guys, one or two of those will actually turn into a date, in my opinion. I feel like that's how it goes. So if you want to accept like the guys that are like, like nothing is glaringly like bad that you wouldn't vibe with, but you are kind of like this way or that. You're like, oh, he's kind of cute and we have some similar interests. You can match him. I think, and I've always said this, that Hinge and Tinder and Bumble, it's like the goal is not to get a million matches. It's to match with people that you think you'd actually be compatible with. So I always recommend matching with like not that many guys, like just guys that look like they would be good picks for you. But I also understand the nature of Hinge and how few of them actually make it off of the apps. Like so many want to just Snapchat or text and like that'll just whatever. I just wouldn't give those the time of day, but I would look through those liked ones, and if he's cute and from the prompts and the photos they look like somebody that you would be interested in, yeah, match them. I don't think it's gonna hurt. I think it only hurts you if you spend a lot of time like texting and messaging before setting up a date, because a lot of them just want to text and message. So I would just match with guys, but I would want them initiating a date like right away. Like it's fine, a little bit of banter obviously is great, but then like let's get it off the app, but also have a date plans. Like I don't want to move off the app unless we're planning to meet. You know what I'm saying? But I always think it's good to be picky, but naturally, like not every single guy you match with is going to turn into a date. I would say about 10%, and use that as guidance. Okay. And then the part two. As I mentioned, I'm in school and working full time. I'm applying to a local ultrasound program this month. I'm so excited about it. I'll find out if I got in mid-July. My lease at my apartment is up in May. So my plan is to move in with my parents 30 minutes away from my current city to save money until I find out if I get in. If I do get in, I'll save over the summer and leave my current job when school starts in the fall. It's a 1-year full-time program that's pretty intense, so I might not be able to work during it, which is why I'll be living at home and probably won't be able to work. Dating new people now, I kind of feel self-conscious about my situation. Well, you shouldn't. I know it's great to be pursuing my education, but moving back home at 27 for possibly a year and a half is really hard for me because I'm such an independent person. What are your thoughts on dating in a situation like this? Should I hold off until I've got my shit together more? The advice I usually hear is that if it's the right person, they'll see the value in what I'm pursuing and won't be deterred. Thoughts? I love you and your podcast so much. Thank you. Thank you. No, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I don't think anybody would think that. I could understand like these are separate things that you're worried about, like moving back in with parents at 27 when you're an independent biatch and you have lived by yourself. That's like scary and concerning. That's like not having to do with dating or anything else like that. I'm thinking, because that's exactly me. I'm 27. If I was moving back in with my dad, oh my gosh, like that's just gonna be a whirlwind. But I don't think that makes you any less marketable, especially given your circumstances. But even if you're out there like working a normal job, you're just trying to save money, I don't think that makes you less of a good candidate at all. Like, especially in this economy, I think it's a smart thing to do if you can stomach it. But I think the only point of concern that I would have with that is, where do you want to date people? Do you want to date people in the city that you were in? Like, do you think that you'll move back to that place? Or if you start dating people in this city that you're from, like in my head, I obviously don't know where you're living, but it sounds like Dallas, let's say you're in, but then your parents live in Frisco. Like, you might start dating people in Frisco, but now you're up in the fucking boondocks in the suburbs. Is that where you might want to be long term? Then it's fine. Or you can continue to date people down in Dallas, for example, but like you're going to be making a hike to date. Or you could just have like a whatever the biggest radius is if you don't give a shit at all. I don't think it really matters. It just depends on your personal preference, but I don't think it says anything about you. You'll be able to like explain it to people. Like, you don't have to say anything about living at home. You will, on your profile, have your prompts. You'll say where you live, whether it's Frisco. Again, I'm using that as an example because it's the only thing I can go off of. But like, once you get on the date, you're like, yeah, I'm living with my parents now, but I'm just in this program. I'm not able to make money. I'm just saving money. Anybody, like, even if I met a guy and he was in that situation, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you lived on your own and now you're just doing this for the time being. I don't think that's like a bad thing at all. And I don't think you should be self-conscious about it, especially in this economy. And like, it's not like you're living at home and you don't have a job and you're just fucking lazy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if a man is out there and he's just living at home and plays video games all day, that's concerning. But like, to save money, that's more than reasonable in any circumstance, whether you're doing a program or not. I think that's totally fine. And I love that for you. And I love that you're getting matches. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm so glad you're here. I apologize. I just saw at the bottom that was submitted on the 18th of March. So I'm so sorry that I'm just getting to that now. Okay, next. Let's begin. Would you give this guy another chance? And then in parentheses it says, I'm guessing you'll say absolutely not, but we'll see. I, 24 female, matched with a guy on Hinge, 26 male, and he seemed great. He was good at texting, but not overbearingly texting all day. Just a text here and there to get to know each other a bit. My favorite. I hate texting all day. Same. I'm so with you, girl. After about 3 days, he says, okay, so when are we going to go on our first date? I'm thinking either pickleball or a hike. This seemed like such a green flag, coming up with plans and options for me to choose from. So I agreed to pickleball. It seemed like a fun time. I love sports. It'd be nice and casual. Also, knowing you had major success from a first date of pickleball, I figured it was perfect. I love that. Anyways, the plan was made on, I think, either a Monday or Tuesday, and we decided to meet up Friday evening because it was supposed to rain all week and Friday was nice weather. Now, a little background info here. He told me he had hockey every night this week until like 11 p.m., but not on Friday. So I did mention if he was going to be tired and wanted a night to chill, he was welcome to do so and we could do it another night, but he said absolutely not. He wanted to meet me and hang out, and I was so excited. So we continued texting a bit throughout the week, but not a ton. Friday morning, he texted me good morning and confirmed plans for later that day. We decided to meet at 5:30 after work, and he said he lived 3 minutes from the place, so just to text him when I was on my way. Now, some more background info. I live in a very, very small town, which is about a 40-minute drive to the larger city where most of the boys I match with live. I don't mind the drive. It's part of living out in the country, but it's also a long drive, so I don't like to just do it for fun. I texted him at 4:50 saying, I'm leaving now. I'll be there at 5:30. No response. I arrived at 5:25. Still hadn't heard from him, so I gave it a few minutes. 5:40, still nothing. So I text him and he says he's on his way. Oh. 5:40, still nothing. So I text him and ask if he's on his way. Nothing. 5:50, still nothing. So I say I'm leaving and head back home. Now I'm pissed off that I just drove all the way to town to sit in a parking lot for 20 minutes and had to turn right around. At 6:15, this boy texts me saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I fell asleep on the couch. I am so sorry. Did you already leave? What can I do to make it up to you?" I was pretty much already home and pissed off at this point, so I didn't respond. I still haven't. I don't know what to do. On one hand, he had a lot of late nights and I figured he'd be tired, but also like, bro, you're 26 years old. You had plans to hang out with a super cool girl and you fucking fell asleep. I don't know what I should do. He seems really nice and fun and there aren't many options around me, but also I'm kind of thinking staying single may be the better option. Please let me know what you think. I mean, I should probably just say goodbye, but I also don't want to be a bitch. Side note, I love the podcast so much. I listen every Monday and Friday and I've been watching your videos for over 2 years. You're such a great part of my day, so thank you for what you do. Hello, you're way too kind to me. Okay, here's the thing, and I know what people would think. Brenna, you're going to say don't reach out, don't text him, which I never know the validity of excuses. Does he have a job? If you guys were meeting at 5:30 and it's a Friday, I'm confused. Most people get off at 5. Like, what does this guy do for a living? He lived 3 minutes away. I mean, I wouldn't hate you if you gave him another shot, if you guys are vibing, but like, number one, the next time, just make extra fucking sure that he's up and at 'em. Because on one hand, I always like believe people, and I know I probably shouldn't, but I'm like, maybe he did fall asleep. I mean, still, I think you should be on top of it and like not like, if you had a date, at least set an alarm. But like, I don't know, some people are weird. Like, on one hand, it's like, I would never do that. I would never fucking fall asleep when I knew I had a date. So it's like hard for me to relate. But also, I don't necessarily always believe, like, I have these strict rules, but like sometimes things happen. And he texted and apologized. And yeah, I don't know. Do whatever your heart tells you to do. I don't want to like, on one hand, and I don't want to give girls like false hope, like maybe that's the love of your life, because sometimes we do that and it's like, okay, but I don't think he like blatantly was, not that I think many people are trying to be disrespectful. I don't know. What do you guys think when you guys are listening? Like, on one hand, I'd be like, fuck him, but on the other, it's like, but that's also hard. Like, are you going to date somebody they live that far away in general? I get it. You're in a small town. I guess if you're up for that, I don't know. If you haven't answered, you submitted this on 3/31. Oh, this wasn't that long ago. Oh, wait, no, this is the next one I clicked. Sorry. This one was, 3/28. So it was like a week ago. Has he reached out? Has he said anything? I need more details. Message me. I wouldn't hate you if you went, but also it's like, it's kind of shitty. So if you don't want to reach out to him again, I wouldn't. I think it's fair of you. Like, that sucks. Especially like, there are so many girls. I've never really been ghosted like that. I've been ghosted in messaging, but like, I've never gone to a place and a guy not show up. So I don't know what that is like. I know a lot of girls out there have been. And so a lot of girls harbor like these negative feelings, which I don't know what I would feel. It kind of just depends on the circumstances. And if where you live, there aren't that many options. Not that you should settle. And I'm not saying settle. You haven't even met the person. That's the problem. Like, if you hadn't met this guy and like things were already weird and like, then I would say no. But like, you don't even know him. So on one hand, I would be like, what if he's like really great and he genuinely fell asleep? But also like, I go back to, I would never fall asleep. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that wasn't really a good answer. But anyways, we're going to move along to the next. This is a best friend one, or a childhood best friend. I have a childhood best friend. I've known her for over 20 years. I love her dearly. We've had our falling outs over the years, but she's really been my only long-term friend. She's really starting to feel, though, like a secret hater. She's always viewing my TikTok videos and never liking or commenting. A few weeks ago, she told me, and I quote, "You have so many more followers than me, and you don't even talk about anything interesting." This is not your friend. I already don't like this bitch. She's a mom, and I love her daughter like she's my niece. We don't talk much, and when we do, I'm always the one to text her first. She never asks how I'm doing, and the only thing she ever talks about is her partner, who she's been with for 14 years, and it's always negative. She's been saying she's going to leave for about 5 years now, but she says that she's stuck. It's not an abusive relationship. You can just tell that they aren't in love. She's making no effort to leave, and I'm just so tired of the dramatics. She has nothing positive to say ever, and it's so draining. This last weekend, I asked her if she and her daughter wanted to come to the beach with me, but we ended up deciding to have a pool day at their house. She never confirmed plans on Friday, and it's now Monday morning, and she still hasn't texted me. No, I'm sorry this weekend didn't work out. She knows most Saturdays I work, and this Saturday was the only day I had off for months, and I made time for them. Our friendship is feeling very one-sided, and I'm pretty hurt and upset. I'm debating on having a conversation with her to resolve my issues, but I'm also so tired of putting in the effort. Any advice would be helpful. I normally be the person to ghost, but I put in a lot of work to not be that person. Yeah, if you want to have a conversation, have a conversation, but my thoughts are she kind of sucks and isn't a good friend. And even if she was a good friend, the negativity is just so exhausting to be around. I would have the conversation if you want to have that, and then kind of end this friendship. Like, it's nobody needs to be around somebody negative, and maybe that will wake her up to her antics. I think these people don't realize, because if they have friends that listen to her bitch, that's what they'll do. And yeah, I would suggest, if you want to have a conversation, have a conversation, or I would do like the slow ghost. If she never reaches out, it's not even ghosting. Like, if she's never one to reach out to you, then what the fuck? Like, it wouldn't even be a ghosting situation anyways. If you're the one putting in, these are all different issues that come to the same answer. You're the only one putting in effort. That sucks. She's negative to be around. Having like a negative partner situation, like, I get it. And if you have a friend that's in a bad relationship, it sucks, but you can only be there so much, and it starts to affect everything. Like, that's why she's negative. Her life sucks. You know what I mean? She needs to leave that relationship. She needs to like see what her life has become. I would have the conversation or not have the conversation, and then just leave it at that. Like, she never puts in effort anyways, and it'll probably just fade out as is. But I don't think this is a friend that you need to have. She's not adding anything positive to your life. I don't care how long you've been best friends, 20 years. I get it, and you can appreciate somebody, but still, you know, kind of move on with your life. You can appreciate that for what it was when you were children and it was fun, but it's not that anymore. And I don't think it's good or healthy to hold on to the past when that's just not the reality. That's what I would do. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have the best weekend. If you see me on my stories going crazy at a rave, mind your fucking business. And that is all. I will see you guys on Monday, on Friday, the next time that you're here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you then. Okay, bye guys.